Hello and welcome to episode 76 of Random Encounter, the RPG fan podcast. I'm your host, Robert Steinman, Pale Robbie on the boards. Steven, don't get hit by the giant meat cleaver. Jesus.
Oh my god.
Actually, that's neither here nor
Alright,
there.
get off.
What are we doing
No,
now?
no. We're having fun. We're having fun. So yeah, we are sitting around and we got games to talk about today, and we got some Bravely Default, a little bit of Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy 13 Mega Whoop-de-Doo, and guess what? We're going to talk about Diablo 3 a little bit. I know, everyone's going to be really upset with me. All right, let's
I
make
think it's relevant.
introductions.
It's relevant.
Let's get the introductions going here. That was Stephen Meyerink.
Taylor's on the boards. Your friendly neighborhood half music host.
Yep. Steven, I play everything on easy Meyerink. Oh, man. Then we also have Kyle, I hate Bravely Default.
DM Kylie Miller on the boards?
I
And
don't think the word hate was ever used.
No, that's incorrect.
I
but
don't know. He
I'll address that later.
He didn't give the game a 90. That means he hates it.
That's true.
That's what the internet says to me.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, I
True.
forgot
Good
about
point. Good point.
Okay. See. It's all about logic. And
That's why
then Derek, I also hate Bravely Default.
You need to shut the hell up.
Rob was just trolling.
Anyway, I'm Derek. I'm Embry on the boards.
I'm in a trolling mood. I spent the whole day making life miserable for my students, and now.
Oh yeah, tell us what happened.
Please,
Do I have
tell
to
me
tell
more.
the story again now?
Well, yeah, because you said it once
They
already.
haven't
You
heard
should have
it.
saved it.
Okay, all right. Now I'll tell this. Well, you guys have heard it. I don't know if people are interested in me being a terrible human being.
Of course.
So
Most
today,
people are
That's why they
especially
listen to
interested
this.
in that.
so today in class, we finally got our new piece of technology in the classroom. These Apple TVs that I can use to kind of mirror my iPad or anything like that in the classroom. You can do some really cool stuff with it. And so the first thing we did as a class is we watched Power Thirst Rocket Edition. So I just figured that if you're going to start off, you got to start off with the best possible. And so then I walked away from my students for a little bit because I was like, oh, yeah, we got a test coming up. I want you guys to solve some problems, ask me some questions. And yeah, we'll get ready for the test, probably late next week. And then I walk away for about 10 minutes and come back, and they're just kibitzing on the iPad, like watching YouTube videos and everything. So I just look at them and I go, yeah, your test is tomorrow. I'll see you all later.
You're so evil.
And so I walk out of the room and they're all just going, is he serious? And so yeah, that kind of happened, and I'm looking.
So are you actually going to give them the test tomorrow?
I haven't decided yet. I mean, we're sitting here. It's like what, about 10:30 at night, Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, I haven't decided yet.
You're
could
gonna
just
walk
whip
in,
one up,
throw the
though.
test on the floor, be like, "Praise the sun," and walk out and be like,
I don't know. We'll find out. It depends on what kind of mood I am, what kind of mood I'm in at that point. So I don't know. But we got games to talk about. We ready to talk about games?
It's almost like this is a gaming podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
we
we
want to
should.
start off with Bravely Default.
Sure.
"Yeah, sure."
All right.
Do a
So
little bravely default.
Contentious.
Kyle, you hated it. I think that
My
was
God.
clear.
You're such a troll.
Don't lead the conversation in a certain direction, Rob. Let Kyle speak.
Okay, Kyle, tell us how much you hated it.
Oh my god. This is why I don't come on here anymore. No, I'm just kidding. Bravely Default is a game that I really like. I don't get the adoration for it. I don't think it's a bad game, and I don't hate it. I think it's like pretty average, but I don't think it has like any kind of charm or personality. So I really don't understand why people seem to adore it. Steven, maybe you can tell us because you seem to.
It's kind of funny because I would say the exact opposite. I actually, and again, I mean no disrespect because I think it's purely, based on your own experience, but I actually think it's very charming, particularly the characters. It reminds me a lot of Final Fantasy IX, some of my favorite Tales games, in that I really like the banter between the cast. It's not, and I don't mean this as a slight to you, it's not Witcher quality philosophizing and, drama. It's very squarely in the realm of JRPG, kind of, having fun saving the world. A point of contention I know a lot of people have is the various bad guys that you get jobs from. Because some of them are like over-the-top, hilariously evil villains that you just murder and steal their job.
Wait a minute. You get you get. I thought you meant like side quests and stuff. I was like, why are the bad guys giving you jobs? Like,
Well, see, yeah, no, what it is you get some jobs from the story, and you get some as side quests where you'll do a side quest where you follow this plot line, and at the end of it, you'll fight a bad guy, who is the main bad guy, sort of that little side quest, and there'll be a certain job, and when you beat them, you get what's called an item called an asterisk, and that unlocks a new job.
Oh, okay. Do you
And
get a choice of which job it unlocks, or is it?
no, it's whatever job that bad guy was. So
Okay,
like,
gotcha.
you'll fight a summoner in one of the side quests. So when you beat him/her, you get the summoning asterisk, and you can become a summoner.
Okay, so if you want to get a job like as a milkman, you got to beat the milkman
You have to
boss.
beat the piss out of the milkman. Yes.
Yeah, just
Okay,
like in
cool.
real life.
Um,
All
yeah.
right, cool. All right.
Yeah,
Rock
and
on.
some of those are a
There
little
can
bit
be
like
only one.
some of them are kind of non-starters. Like there's one of the stories I think is interesting is the thief storyline, where it's this character who displays all these traits of having a lot of backstory, and he explains it, and he is sympathetic, but then you kill him, and that's it.
Why did
So
you have to
I
mention
do think,
That's actually my big issue with the job quests in general,
yeah,
actually, or the villains. But
some of them are non-starters, some of them are more interesting. Um, the main story itself is what you'd expect from like a Final Fantasy game in that style. But again, I think it's the writing, because I actually disagree with Kyle. I think the writing is very clever. I think it's intuitively written, and there's a lot of creative liberties they took compared to the Japanese, and the characters all have a lot of personality and charm that I like a lot. And I
I
think
don't.
part of it too is visually how the characters look, because they all have a really particular visual style, and I find it charming.
The,
I've
don't get me
laughed a
wrong.
lot of times at the dialogue.
The writing isn't the worst. I mean, I'd say it's competent most of the time, but there's just something kind of artless about the game. Despite it being like aesthetically pleasing, it just almost feels artless. Is I guess the best way that I can put it.
Kind of like a manufactured feeling? Is that what you're kind of saying? Like,
Yeah, it has that, and I touched on that in my review, but it's just kind of a mess. Like certain aspects of it are like gorgeous, like the town design is just filled with imagination and beauty. But then other aspects of it, like just the basic down to the basic structure of the game, make it feel like just like a basic product and just very artless. And I think it has this kind of weird lack of identity because of that that really put me off.
I get kind of a similar sense, actually, because I still haven't made very much progress in the game, which is horrible. I'm in chapter 1 still, but my Narende is completely rebuilt. Everything's at max already. Because, I take it to work or university
Yeah.
or whatever, and then I get street passes, and I come home at the end of the night, and I think, oh yeah, I should play Bravely Default. And then I boot it up, do my town, and then I'm like, oh, I don't have time for this right now. I could make time, of course. But, yeah, I think, my issue... So I like Bravely Default. More than Kyle, maybe less than Steven. I absolutely love, the soundtrack is freaking phenomenal, and we've gone over this many times, especially on Rhythm Encounter. But I think it has a lot of really good components. But what I keep experiencing, I guess, is that I feel like a lot of it is underdeveloped in terms of characterization or um, I don't know. It's like you were saying earlier about the villains. So yeah, you get these little side quests where you pursue a villain and you get this little story arc, and at the end you beat that villain and then you get their job. But as far as I can see, those characters never return, and it's like you're building these identities up and then you just kill them, and you don't even get a post-battle cutscene of "Rah, I recant my evil ways." It's just like they're gone by.
Well,
I mean,
technically
you die.
they
I will
return when the
say-
game makes you do the same thing 5 times in a row.
yeah,
Oh,
does
cool.
that? Okay, I want to have a separate discussion on that. But Derek, finish up your point there.
No, I feel like it keeps starting to build interesting characters, and then it just washes them away immediately, and I'm getting irritated because I want to get attached to the characters, and I think that the main cast is fine. I actually agree with Kyle that I think as far as I've progressed, I think Ringabel is really obnoxious. I think his actual, I like his voice, and he's kind of roguish, but the fact that he just absolutely enters every conversation, and then, to borrow Kyle's term, he poisons it with, where are all the ladies at? I just want to see the
It's
ladies. Are there
so-
any ladies? So many ladies.
Really?
And it's like,
It's
I
like-
actually
it.
think that's I actually think that's hilarious. Like,
because I don't like the
Well,
same joke being repeated
Then
in every
again,
con-
It's
Steven,
not even
Steven also liked Zidane, so
for me.
See,
It's not.
Sorry.
sorry, I don't think it as I don't like the use of the word poison, because I mean, obviously, I don't think it's poison to the conversations. He's clearly used for comedic effect. His character has more nuance to it, but that's like his go-to joke. But I don't feel like the game isn't aware of that, and this is why I so heavily disagree with you both, because the game very quickly acknowledges that, all right, this is Ring a Bell's joke, and everyone starts to kind of get annoyed with it. So then they start to have this meta joke built in where people expect him to do that, and he starts reacting to people expecting him to be it. He'll be like, well, yeah, that's what I think, but...
Yeah,
And
but just because the game is aware that something it does is annoying doesn't mean it's not annoying.
see, I think they're making fun of it, though.
They are, but at the same time, it's still happening. So like, it's still, and it's not even like I know some people said, other reviewers said it was like kind of sexist, and there were sexist aspects of the game, and that's not even what I am concerned about. I just think that it's just annoying and uncreative, I guess.
I will say on a positive note that Adia is amazing, and Murgurger is the best catchphrase of 2014 already.
What is it?
I thoroughly enjoy it. Like
She
they
says
definitely took it.
"murder," and they
Yeah,
voice it really funny in the English and the Japanese.
she does this little. She has this little quirk where when she gets frustrated, she goes Murgurger, and it's
Okay.
spelled out MRGRGRGR. And for some reason, I find that really amusing and cute. But
It's really
and apparently,
strange.
I don't know tastes, but whatever.
So I think you'll find like whether or not you like the characters will be up for debate. And to throw Kyle a bone, I agree. The dungeon design is a little bit flat because it's kind of like here's a dungeon, run through, kill monsters, fight the boss. However, I don't feel like that's the focus of the game at all. The focus of the game is very squarely on the combat. And I feel like that combat is good enough that it carries you through the entire experience because I'm not concerned with when I get to the dungeon like, oh, I want to be sorting out puzzles and nonsense. Obviously, I'd like that, but I'm almost always thinking the metagame of what am I doing here with my characters customization wise because the degree of freedom you have to do stuff is fairly astounding, and that's why I am pushing you so much to play it, Rob, because you're a guy who likes good combat, and this is a game that has fantastic combat and awesome character progression.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it also doesn't waste your time. Now there is a point where one of the last chapter. I know what happens in the last chapter because somebody spoiled the game for me. So I said to hell with it and looked up the last chapter to see what the thing everyone didn't like is, and it is a little bit lame. It's a padding. It's definitely padding. But I see myself finishing it anyway because of how much I enjoy building my characters up. But that's definitely going to become a point. It's a fair point.
I think that's the thing that's going to determine if you like this game. Is the job system? Do you like the job system enough to deal with all this other stuff? Because really, it is like the job system, the game. I mean,
the job system, the game.
That's like everything
Thanks,
is.
John.
Yeah, like John called it RPG, the RPG or something, but I would say it's the job system, the RPG, because it seems like everything revolves around that. And the job system is really good. I think has some tiny flaws, but that's like all there is for me.
I mean, did they really? I read in a review, not to get to spoilers or anything like that, so I'm not going in that direction.
Better
But
not.
do you really have to do the same thing 5 times to finish the game?
Yes.
What?
There are differences. The dialogue changes and things like that, but you go through a segment of the game 5 times.
Because it was so much fun the first time?
Well, yes, it was fun the first time.
Yeah,
I haven't played the game except for the demo. I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, but
no,
I
and
hear-
I like it a lot.
I hear
I feel
that.
like we're coming off negative.
No, I don't mean to be coming off negative, but when I hear Steven telling me the game's not going to waste my time, and then I hear that.
Like I said, the game's focused on the combat.
Okay.
And in the combat, you have the ability to turn up the speed if you're wanting to grind your jobs, which not that I've done that at all. You can boost the encounter rate to like 200%, or you can turn it off. So if you're like, I just want to get through this dungeon and get back to the story, you can do that. You can literally, if you feel confident in your level, you can turn the encounters off, blast through the dungeon, and then get back to what you enjoy doing. So the game doesn't force you to sit in a scenario you don't want to be in for very long. Like if you want to just walk around on the world map and you don't feel like screwing around, like you're trying to run all the way around to get to a side quest or something, turn off encounters.
Yeah, it absolutely has a ton of features, and for the sake of convenience, that many games should probably take a page out of.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to say that I want to see all of these features in every game because that would be, then everything would be super uniform and I don't know. But I really like the ability to do things like adjust your encounter rate and uh, change the difficulty at will and other things like that. Be able to speed up battles, especially. So when you're grinding, you can speed it up to 4 times. So you can basically skip through the animations in case you just really want to grind. I tend to keep it on normal or maybe 2 at fastest because I feel like if it's on 4 all the time, it's going by a little bit too fast, and I'm kind of playing command menu the game rather than an actual
Yeah.
RPG.
Yeah,
But yes,
I find that I like watching the battles. So I don't, unless I'm grinding, I leave it on. I grind on 4, but then when I'm playing, I usually leave it on 2 unless I get like attacks I want to watch. Because 2 is quick enough that I can still see what's happening, but it's not, I'm still getting, more efficiency out of my time, I guess.
I love the customization options though in this game. I mean, they like made the game for me. I mean, or rather, they kept it from being even more tedious. I think like the ability to turn off random encounters entirely is just awesome.
Yeah, it kind of acknowledges, it's not that random encounters are inherently bad, but they're a thing that was designed based on limited technology. You can't
Yeah.
have a monster show up on the map. Now we can do monsters on the map, which is fun too. So if you don't want to fight it, you just avoid it. Whereas here, it's kind of like a concession between those two things. If you want to get into tons of fights, put it at 200. If you just want to have classic turn-based random encounters because you think that's awesome, leave it at 100. If you want, only to get into fights when you want to get into fights, just manipulate it as you will.
Hmm.
There's also, I think there's 3 difficulty modes. I don't know. I just saw hard and clicked into that. But
Actually, I really like the difficulty level of the game, even on normal. I think it has a real, and it's super adjustable, but at the same time, like just keeping it as it is, it's pretty good, pretty steady, challenging. The
I
bosses.
yeah, I feel like the game, if you put it on hard, acknowledges that you're able to grind a lot because the bosses can be really tough. Um, but it's scaled such that like you'll go through ups and downs, but it's scaled such that they sort of expect you to get into the combat
Hmm.
and want to build up your party. So they have the bosses powered appropriately that if you've made your party a bunch of gods, you're not just going to insta kill everything. I mean, there are occasions where you're going to do that, especially if you level ahead of where they sort of expect you to be at that time. But that's a I wouldn't call it a flaw, but that's a foible of that kind of design inherent in any game with that style. Like Final Fantasy Tactics can become the easiest game in the world after the first battle if you want it to be.
Mhm.
And this falls prey to that same thing because I spent a very large amount of time grinding at the beginning of Chapter 2. Like I got a bunch of my jobs to level 10, and this is in the Flower City, Kyle. And literally, I fought 2 job bosses and I killed them in 4 turns, and it was awesome because I felt like I'd earned it. But then when
Yeah,
I moved
yeah,
ahead, bosses became difficult again. So it wasn't like I felt like I was so powerful. And the
right.
way they've scaled the jobs is that you'll find a combination that works, but then you'll fight a boss who you really need to change up what you're doing. At least I've found a little bit where you're not just I found a godlike combination. I'm never changing.
I guess for me, I really like Bravely Default, and I wanted to like it more. I I guess I'm just a little let down. I hate to say let down because that implies that my expectations were too high or whatever. But I guess I'm just kind of sad that the characterization is as weak as it is with most of the side characters from what I've seen so far. I mean, I'm really early in the game, so I feel like I'm maybe not making the fairest assessment by saying
Well,
that.
some of them
But
are better than others, but they all do have that sort of like even I'm playing and I'm like, all right, I would have liked to
that
have talked to that thief after I murdered him.
that
Like
sense
he
of
sort of had a sense.
ephemerality.
Yeah,
Yeah, that does
and
like kind of like the side quests are pretty meaty, but at the same time they're just kind of like, okay, that's done, move
yeah,
on.
they end too quickly. Like it feels almost kind of murderous occasionally, where you're like, "Oh, hello, new person with a serious problem," and they work through it. They're working through it. Then you're like, "I'm going to murder you now." Then you murder them, and you steal their soul. And
Yeah,
then you're
that's
like, "All
true.
right, bye.
I
I'm
don't see
returning to
what the
your job."
problem is here.
All
That
right,
is
so
dark.
it's funny. I will say that they did a poll after the game came out in Japan because we got the sequel version, which is like it's like Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. It's got extra stuff in it and refined difficulty and stuff. And one of the things they found
Nonsense.
out in this survey is that people said a lot of Japanese gamers said we want more meaty side quest stories. Like we want, like they said that they end too abruptly, and they've already said in this sequel they're aware that's one of their flaws, so they're really going to be working on that. That's one of the things they're going to be working on. So I'm satisfied with it as it is. It could be better, but I'm also happy to know that they're not blind to the fact that that is a flaw in the way they're telling their story.
I certainly don't hate it. I just find it, I guess, uninteresting.
I'll just keep listening to the soundtrack. That's fine. I mean, I'm gonna keep playing the
Soundtrack is
game, but
beautiful.
soundtrack is so good. Especially the I just
Kind of
discovered the live concert Lux and Dark Kiko.
Yeah, I want that Blu-ray. It's
So
so
freaking
good. Just wait to. I want you to beat the game so you can hear how amazing the final boss song is.
Yeah, I've still not heard a bit of the music just because I've purposely kept myself from listening.
It's one of those games musically where they keep all their motifs in. We're stealing.
That's what I love.
But
That's what I want.
all 4 of the characters have a theme song that plays when they do a super attack, and they're all really cool songs, I think. And those songs get worked throughout the storyline in appropriate battles, and it's really cool how they did that.
Do we have a date for the sequel?
No,
Like in Japan, or are they just working on it?
they're
don't-
just working on it.
Think so.
I don't think
But
they haven't
they
revealed
showed-
anything, have they?
They showed screenshots and they showed the
did
main
they?
character and stuff. Yeah, and then there's a trailer for it, like Kingdom Hearts style, in this one. If you do some sort of thing, I think if you put the Konami code in, you can watch a trailer.
Yeah, they actually just announced that today. That if you put in the Konami
Oh, really?
code, literally the Konami code, you get to see the teaser trailer without beating the game. But I mean, I'll wait.
It's spoilers though. It's got mega spoilers, so
Yeah, so don't watch it. If you read that anywhere, that news story, do not do that code unless you've beaten the game. Unless you really love spoilers.
Is
Yeah,
it
some people do.
is it a bunch of dudes in black cloaks running up?
God,
Yeah.
I hope so. Maybe they can salvage that plot.
No, they can't.
I disagree.
Trust me, they can't.
Trust the guy who hasn't played all the Kingdom Hearts games. I don't think so.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's like 10 billion of them, and I can't even figure out the order.
I told
because
you
they're
which
not...
ones to play.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll play the one that has a freaking fraction in it at some point.
No,
It's
I didn't
not
say to play.
fun to
I didn't
play.
say to play that one.
Oh,
You
okay,
just
sorry.
watch the cutscenes from that one.
Sorry. I got confused.
Yeah, Bravely Default. I'm actually glad we had divided opinions on it here. Not because I don't like being agreed with, but it's very the general consensus on the nets is very positive, I think. So I think it helps you to. I'm actually writing an editorial sort of about this where you can still love something and have it be flawed, and I think people are become very bad at realizing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I can say I love Bravely Default. It's probably my favorite 3DS game. Maybe tied with Link Between Worlds, but it's easily the one I'm going to have the most hours on, and it really appeals to me, and I love it. But I'm also not going to be like, no, the plot is perfect. Like I acknowledge Ring a Bell could be irritating to people, and I can see why. I find it amusing, but that's because he reminds me of Zelos from Tales of Symphonia, and I think his plot arc is actually very similar to that. But it's not like you could say, yeah, this could have been done better, and still have had a great experience with the game.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel that way about some of my favorite games.
Unfortunately, everyone will think that I hate JRPGs now.
But I mean, you do. You don't like
don't
Xenoblade. You don't like
didn't
Bravely
dislike
Default.
That is pretty egregious.
Kyle doesn't hate any of those games.
Oh, he hated Xenoblade. Come
No,
on.
I did not.
He said it was pretty good.
There was no Witcher in it. It
Mm.
immediately loses 3 points on his scale because of that.
Well,
You're
You mean
really
30.
painting very broad strokes here,
I really am, and I should
making
apologize.
Kyle into a very one-dimensional person.
Yeah.
Kyle's
No.
in 4 or 5 dimensions, like 4D space.
No, I loved parts of Xenoblade Chronicles, and I really like the first 2/3 of it.
Yeah, it does kind of go on a little too long. I think I can definitely agree with that. But
And that's actually an interesting. I don't want to hijack the discussion, but that's actually an interesting discussion to be had. I think too. That I'm sure we've touched on it before, but Xenoblade and Bravely Default, a big complaint I hear from a lot of people is that both of them go on too long.
Yeah,
And
that's actually.
it's interesting, because you want to have more to the game you like, especially when we were younger. I was like, oh my god, I want every game to be 9 million hours long. But now I actually appreciate a story that knows when to end. But on the other hand, it's I wouldn't want to be the developer that has to make a game and advertise it as a product.
Yeah, well, yeah. it's a really tough balance to strike because there's the difference between actual length and artificial length, as we've discussed, padding to them.
I think it's just
Persona
like
4 Golden is a long game, but it's meaningful all the way through.
And it should never end.
Yeah, like
I
that's a
like
game that I don't want to end, but that's because
yeah,
it's just
Derek, I
awful.
like the way that you put that, and you said that in a previous podcast too. It's meaningful all the way through. Like I think there's an issue. The issue is not length; it's like the structure of the game and like the quality of the narrative and what's actually happening, the minute to minute quality of what's going on.
Right. Because in a game like Persona 4, which I hate to keep coming back to the same examples, but Persona 4 is amazing, so deal with it. In
You're going to
Persona
get a lot
4
more of it, so you better deal with it.
yeah, everything that happens in Persona 4 is relevant or does in some way builds up a character or provides you with some kind of interesting development or resolution to a subplot or whatever it may be. Like the social links may have. I mean, at worst, the social links may have a couple of dud moments when it's like you hung out and ate ramen and had a small conversation, but it's always entertaining because you're always invested in seeing where it's going to go next. And that's the same for the main plot as well, because the main plot is constantly progressing and you're learning new details, maybe little details, but they're still details that pull you further and further into the mystery until the very end when you're like, oh crap, I gotta end this. But games where the last third or last quarter turns into, remember all of the magic shrines that you went to? You should go back to all those magic shrines. It's like, really? And then same dungeon, exact same enemies but higher level, and then you get back to the end to fight a new boss. And that's not, again, I'm gonna reuse the word meaningful because it's just there. You're just doing things mechanically, and unless the actual game, like the battle system or whatever, like the core gameplay mechanics are really, really excellent, and this is actually where we can make an argument in Bravely Default's favor because the combat is really good and the job system is really good. So if that's enough to elevate it for you beyond the tedium of having to repeat the same things, fine. But a lot of games kind of fall into that trap and don't have enough to pull themselves back out of the, I don't know, quagmire of repetition, whatever.
Yeah. That's the thing is, it for me it sort of depends on the game. Like if you have a game where your system is limited and like you really don't want to be doing the same thing over and over again. But if you have a game where there's a lot of customization and sort of the focus is on that sort of player-driven kind of like you get what you put in out of it, I don't mind as much. But that's not to say I wouldn't enjoy having more unique things going on.
Right.
Okay. All right. So Bravely Default. I think it's, divisive, but I think overall everybody likes it to an extent. Maybe just wasn't the big giant game that a lot of people were hoping for, but still
Well,
fun,
a
right?
lot of people, apparently just not us quite as much, and by us I mean Kyle and I.
We're
Yeah, I
jaded.
think I haven't seen like any other critical opinions of it, to be honest. I think it got like 170 in review, but like I haven't seen much else other than that.
We're just
Everybody
jaded,
loves it.
guys. We
I'm
hate
just
everything.
I don't think
It's just
so.
a-
I'm pretty damn enthusiastic about everything, and I don't know why it's not pushing all my buttons, but it's still a great game.
It's one of those games where like visually, it G's with me. Orally, it absolutely does, and gameplay it hits all of the things that I especially love. So like I'm playing it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is exactly what my brain hooks into. It's awesome combat, great customization, and rad music. So I'm just sitting there like, woo.
That's good. I'm happy with that. We should be happy about appreciating games. It's fun when games are good. You want to talk crap about another game right now?
Speaking of games or series that may be gone on too long, but maybe not. Is that
I'm
what
gonna
we were
go
getting
with
into?
I'm gonna go with it has gone on too long, and I'm saying that as a big fan of Final
You're saying
Fantasy
this-
13.
You're saying this as their friend.
I'm telling you as your friend that your
Telling
makeup
you as your
looks like
friend,
crap
you need to stop.
and your ass looks huge in those jeans.
You're
but
making your dad cry.
Thank you. I was hoping it would. Wait, what?
Yeah. What? Huh?
Oh god. Oh god.
So Lightning Returns, right? So last podcast I mentioned, sort of offhandedly, or I couldn't really get into detail because I was embargoed, but I was playing Lightning Returns, and it's a pretty cool game. I definitely have a lot of issues with it, but my review illustrated those issues, I think, fairly well. I feel like I was probably leaning positive overall, and I seem to be one of the more positive reviews on the net of the game. I just think that, well, that there are myriad issues. Mostly, they lie in the fact that Lightning Returns doesn't really feel like part of Final Fantasy XIII's mythology. It has the core cast, but everything is so far removed that it's kind of like, why is this even within the same series? Like,
it is weirdly bizarre, like, isn't it?
yeah, it is. So, quick synopsis is basically that crap went down, and so at Final Fantasy 13, they tried to save the world, blah blah blah. Lightning got pulled into Valhalla and became the knight of the goddess Etro, blah blah blah. Time distortions. I'm saying blah blah blah, not
Time
out of
distortion.
disrespect, but just because it's incredibly complicated. And I will say convoluted. I'm not going to say incomprehensible, because it is comprehensible. You just have to do a lot of work to understand what's going on, and it's presented very badly. Although I'm not saying that it's a bad story, and I think that's an important distinction to make. And I said as much in my review, because a lot of people just flat out immediately say that the story in Final Fantasy 13 is not sensical, and it's, well, I
I
don't know
think
if it's,
that seems kind of lazy to me. Like, oh, it's just confusing. It doesn't make sense. It's stupid.
I
You
think
know?
I mean
I-
that. Well,
I
okay,
don't
Steven,
want to
go.
make the stupid comment, but I think I'm going to make the comment that Rob just made.
which is
I
what.
like the story in Kingdom Hearts, but I'll be the first person to tell you that it's badly told and convoluted, and I get the sense
Yeah,
that it's the same deal
that's what
with
I'm saying.
this.
I'm saying
Yeah,
the
that's
same
what I'm
thing.
saying. I'm just saying that a lot of people say use the confusion argument as like, oh, it's just a bad story.
No, I
I
would
think
say
that's I think
I
that's
can
fine.
see what you guys are saying there. I would say that for me, Final Fantasy 13 was just, I think incomprehensible is the right word, but it wasn't just that. It's like I can take an incomprehensible story if I'm into some aspect of the game, if it's the world environment, if it's the way it plays, if it's something, but nothing in that game grabbed me. And I just felt absolutely no connection to any of the characters, to any of the actions. It was all just silliness to me. And, I can handle a lot of silliness. I love silly stuff, but there was just nothing in it that I could grasp onto, if that
Well, that's
makes
fair.
sense.
So so basically, following the zaniness of time distortions in 13.2, Lightning Returns takes place a full 500 years in the future. Basically, like, the world fell into this weird temporal anomaly where nobody's aging anymore, and Lightning comes back as the savior to save their souls. And why is she the savior? You'll find out to an extent in the game. Um, but because it is 500 years in the future, it's like, I mean, it's a completely new world, and the reasoning for that is the chaos came out and swallowed everything up, basically, and then sort of mutated the land that exists, and whatever is left is this new world called Nova Crystallia, or Nova Chrysalia, excuse me. But like, so characters are existing, but they don't actually. I mean, they seem like they remember what happened in the previous games, or they make reference to it, but it just feels so disconnected that I don't understand. Like, this would have been a much better game with a fresh cast and no tie-ins to Final Fantasy 13. Like, if the main character was not Lightning, and
It
if
wouldn't change.
but almost everything else. I mean, not everything else, because the way that it's presented is once again poor. It's poorly presented again, but still has a pretty interesting story for the most part. Um, they could have gone with the same setting and the same theme and the same overall plot structure, and had it not been tied to FF13, I think it would have been a lot stronger.
Hmm.
There are other issues in the game for sure, but to me, the narrative factored into how my enjoyment of the game very, very strongly, because I'm so invested in Final Fantasy 13, or at least I was. I'm not saying that this ruined it or anything, but it's over now, so I'm ready. I'm kind of ready to move on. I will say that it had a really good ending. I thought it had a very conclusive ending that answered most of my questions, and it has a nice little epilogue, I think, that leaves it a little bit open, but not too open. Um, so at the very least, I got some satisfaction from completing the game. But anyway, outside of the narrative, Lightning Returns is also, I'm not going to say a mess. I'm very careful to, like, I want to pick the right words here when I describe stuff, because I don't want to come off too negative or too positive. It's just very haphazard. Um, I don't
Feels like
know.
it's a weird combination of ideas that were refined from user input and original ideas.
Yeah, and there are some things about it that are really cool and some things that are kind of lame. Like the combat is really great, very very responsive, very fast, but it's really really difficult sometimes. Like I would say it verges on uneven in terms of difficulty, just in that you'll get into a random encounter where it can just you can get stomped, and you have to be really careful with your blocks and stuff, and it doesn't feel quite. I don't know how to compare it to another game without referencing Dark Souls, which I hate doing.
So it's the Dark Souls of Final
Final
Fantasy
Fantasy
13.
13.
Is that what you're saying?
Shut your mouth.
Uh,
No, I feel like in a game like Dark Souls, it's very risk reward in terms of combat, where you have to really be on your toes and be ready to block and stuff. And Lightning Returns feels a little bit like that. Maybe not quite as punishing, although unlike the previous two games, your HP doesn't restore after battles. You have to actually manage recovery items, which is kind of cool. Gives a little bit of a survival-ish aspect. But uh, I don't know. I don't really know where to go from combat. Like combat is probably the best part of the game, but I kind of started to tire of it um, as I approached the end. I was just kind of over it. I enjoyed switching out my costumes and or schema and earning new costumes and stuff. That was cool. I don't know where to go from here. Like I could talk
How
about
much?
the music.
so
The
you
music.
liked it,
How?
but
How
it's
what?
a flawed product that maybe went on a little too
I mean, it sounds like you were just kind of like fatigued. How much of that was that this is the third game in the series?
That's a lot of it, I think, because if this was, like I said, if it would have had a completely fresh narrative and a fresh cast, I wouldn't have had that fatigue going in.
Hmm.
And because all of that was there, and like I said, I was also interested in the story, and I really genuinely wanted resolution for a lot of these plot threads and these character arcs. And I felt like I got it somewhat, but it wasn't in the way that I expected, which is okay. But I don't know. It, it definitely there was definitely a fatigue played a huge part in it, just because I was like, oh my god, this is still going on, and even as somebody who really likes it, I can recognize that it's kind of worn out its welcome, Um, but overall, I would say that Lightning Returns it's a flawed game that's definitely enjoyable. Um, yeah, Steven's telling me there's nothing wrong with being a critical voice, and I'm not trying to apologize for having a negative leading opinion on it. I just want to be fair. Like whenever I'll criticize it. I'm not going to change my opinion. I want to be fair in my presentation of that opinion.
Hmm.
It has pretty good music. We've talked about that also, but it
It's very
has a
different.
yeah, it's very different. It has a pretty consistently melancholy tone that's far removed from FF13 and 13.2, much like the story. So I guess that makes sense. Um, I will say that the actual usage of the music in the game is odd. I said this in my review, but you can't really. Well, I'm sure you could, but it seems to me that you can't predict when and where you're going to hear a lot of the music. Like some of the field music, you can predict, like, okay, well, I'm in the Dead Dunes, so I'm going to hear this Dead Dunes song. But there are several pieces that can play depending on what time of day it is, and especially with combat, I felt like the battle music was just random almost. It's probably related to the in-game clock and maybe the strength of the enemy I'm fighting related to my own strength or whatever. But I had a couple of favorite tracks that I only heard a couple times throughout the entire game, and I was like, oh, what the hell? Because you get pumped when there's a song you really like and you're fighting battles and stuff. And I was like, well, I'm glad I'm just hearing the original Blinded by Light over and over instead of Savior of Souls or whatever else is cool. But I would say okay, my final opinion on the game is
Your
if
final
you
heaven.
no, not Final Heaven. If you're an existing fan of FF13, like if you actually like 13 and 13.2, absolutely play it. You will get some story resolution, and that's a big part of why I wanted it. If you haven't played either of them, it might be okay to play. I mean, like it's got good gameplay, but the story you'll be like, what the hell is happening to my life right now?
Yeah,
If you play.
that's why I can't even approach it. Like I
Yeah,
think you hit on something there. Like if it had been an all new cast, I might have felt like it was penetrable, for lack of a better word.
yeah.
But the fact that, I only interacted with these characters for a couple hours, and it was like, it's like being at a party you didn't really like, and now, hey guys, we're doing another party this weekend. No, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to come to that.
Interesting metaphor, but I get where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, I just, it wasn't my cup of tea, and I feel left out now, and that's fine. But
I don't. I
I
just
will
want to.
say I watched the entire plot of 13-2 in a movie on YouTube. So if you really wanted to play it and you had 8 hours to spare, you could.
Man, there you go.
But I get the
I
sense
just.
that you don't.
I don't think it's a piece of crap though. I don't think it's a piece of crap. And a lot of people on the net are like, "This is the worst game that's ever come out in my entire life."
Well,
And I'm
it
like, no,
is.
it's not.
People definitely have not played enough bad games if that's what they think.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
I direct them to Dungeons and Dragons Daggerdale.
Oh
I
man,
direct
I
them to
remember
Time
that.
and Eternity.
I direct them
Which-
to Legends of Aetherius.
Oh
I
my
would have
God,
laughed
yeah.
so
Lucifer.
hard, Kyle.
Yeah.
Kyle would have laughed
Lucius.
so hard if you
Lucius.
said, I direct them to Bravely Default.
For me, it was Lucius. Oh my god.
I
Sounds like
thought
we've
you
all
were going to
played it
love that
search
game,
for the
too.
site.
I thought I was too. It was like an old school Hitman game, except it wasn't fun.
Well, it was like a graphic adventure version of Hitman, but yeah.
Ugh.
Tough to play that concept out, I guess.
Mm-mm. Hey Rob, I hear you really like the new Thief. No, wait, not an
Oh,
RPG.
no, why would you do
Shit.
that? Why
No,
would you
not
do
an RPG.
that?
Not an RPG.
It's made by a bunch of guys who I don't think will be making another RPG. So there you go. Yee.
Thief. I'm done. I'm done talking about Lightning Returns.
I hear what you're saying, and I think the Final Fantasy 13 thing was not for me, and that's fine. And I think some people really enjoy it, and that's great. I do not begrudge them that, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. But it wasn't my party. It wasn't my ride. I never got into it. I was really excited when I first saw Final Fantasy 13 at an E3. I feel like that was E3 2005 maybe. um, but I just I don't know. I don't know anymore about Final Fantasy, and I'm gonna give 15 a shot. But I don't
Like
know.
I
Well, I
said
think
before, the people
you
making
really gotta-
15 made an awesome Final Fantasy already.
Right, you really have to consider the difference in who's heading the project. This is no longer going to be
What's his
Motomo
name?
Toriyama. So
Which a lot of people, and I don't mean to cast aspersions because I don't necessarily agree with this, but a lot of people think he's the reason Final Fantasy has been the way it is lately because it's sort of his creative direction, I think.
yeah, I think I would agree with that. I don't wish the guy any ill will, but like I do not like his vision for Final Fantasy.
Yeah, like Type Zero was so good that I'm excited that the people making that are involved with 15 rather than this guy because Type Zero had a lot of the things that I do associate with the games in that series that I like.
I just want another Matsuno game. I mean, we've got Unsung Story, but
I just want him to be able to finish a game that he starts.
Yeah. I want another Evil East game too. I want Fortress.
Whatever
I
the
actually
hell
don't
that
want
was.
Fortress.
No, I don't want that either.
I want an RPG in Ivalice.
You don't want to play as Ash running around like
I mean, if it's fun, I
ninja or
suppose.
something.
Does she have that
It could-
ridiculously short skirt again?
The booty skirt.
The skirt that does not make physical sense.
It could be like Metal Gear Rising, and it could be like Ash Revengeance, and she'll be like, I am Ash, Ivalice Reborn.
She's definitely pretty mad throughout the entirety of FF12.
Yeah,
I think
just
that's why I like
turn
her
into
so
a half
much.
robot and be good. No, I actually liked her for that reason too, because that's first
I
of all,
didn't say
that's
it was
not.
bad. I just said she was pissed.
To me, she's what Lightning wants to be, like a character that has a reason to kind of be, sort of edgy and tough. Except she actually has a reason to be edgy and tough.
And you know what? Here's the thing: Lightning has a reason, but you never see that reason. You're told
Sure.
that reason,
That's
but
true.
in 12, like 12's plot, unfortunately didn't pan out, but it had such a great setup because you spend the entire introduction of the game learning why Ash is upset and experiencing why Ash is upset. She's upset because she's royalty and she's like feels beholden to her people who are like totally screwed by this empire. You get a personal version of that because Vaughn's brother is the character you play as, and he's killed in the beginning by all this plotting. So, and you have like all these different dynamics of why these people are bad and why Ash is angry. So it's like when she's upset about what's happening and frustrated, you can appreciate it because you've actually seen why, not just been told, Bosch got betrayed and Vaughn's upset because it's his brother and Ash is upset because it's her kingdom, right? Just read the encyclopedia. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out plot-wise, but like I agree. That's why I think she is a really interesting character because she doesn't have typical game character motivations. I don't know. It's just not. It doesn't pan out.
I want to play FF12 all the time. Like, I don't know what changed because it was not my favorite when it came out, And over the years, my opinion of it has shifted gradually more towards the positive, and now it's really close to my favorite Final Fantasy. I just love 12
I really
forever.
wish I could say that. I
I
really
like
wish I could
12 a
say that.
lot, but I think it's one of those games that I like a lot, but I admit that it's flawed. It's just more
Yeah,
painful than usual to
absolutely.
admit that it's flawed because of how
Absolutely.
good it could have been.
Yep, I agree with that. It definitely is flawed for sure. Like I will not argue that one bit, but I just something about its art direction and world and the overall plot, even though it didn't sort of go like the characters didn't get as developed as I wanted them to, but a lot of things about FF12 appeal to me incredibly, and that's a big part of why I got an FF12 tattoo.
Yeah, and you know what I like about it is not to derail us totally. This will be all I say, but it's kind of the same thing I liked about Banner Saga. Banner Saga did it better, but 12 attempts to show you both the macro level of what's happening with this war with Arcadia
In the
and
micro.
also the personal level, and that's how you make somebody care about a story. Why do you care about what's happening in the War of the Lions? Because you know all the people it's affecting.
Yep.
Whereas, when you say, "Oh, the world's in danger," that's sad, and you're in town for 5 minutes. I lost an apple because of everything that's bad.
Well, that's the Mass Effect argument. I mean, the reason why people love Mass Effect is because you are invested in these characters. I mean, that was the thing that I heard from a lot of the, Mass Effect 3 apologists who were like, "Well, it doesn't matter because the journey is what mattered and getting to know all those characters." And I agree with that to a certain extent. But, the fact that you were so interested, you were so invested in those characters is why we really played those games. When it comes back to bringing it back to Final Fantasy 13, I think that's my major disconnect is I can take a lot of BS, but if I don't like any of the characters, which I didn't. I mean, Saz
I
was the
like
only
I
guy I
like
somewhat liked.
Saz, and I don't feel like he got enough attention based on just what I've seen.
I
Yeah,
actually
I
really
don't
like
know.
Sarah, but also I didn't really touch on it
Actually, I like Noel
in
too, but
in my review. Yeah, Noel was cool, but Lumina is actually a really cool character. But I can't say anything about her because it's spoilery. But
you
she's a
told
really cool
me.
character. Yep.
I had Derek spoil the entirety of the game for me.
Yep.
Did it make sense?
I'm not saying anything.
That's a
You
no.
can't. I don't. I don't. It's too new to give anything away. Like you can tell by the way somebody reacts to things that whether or not certain things pan out a certain way. So I don't want to say anything further about it because I don't want to spoil it for people that are going to play it.
That's all I gotta say, man.
Okay, so Final Fantasy 13, we hate it. No, just kidding. Uh,
God.
no, 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 no,
You're
no,
full
no,
of
no.
hatred today, Rob.
No,
You're a monster.
I just think it's tough, and
Every
I
and
think it's
everything.
good to have Final Fantasy 13 behind us, if that
But
makes
lightning will
sense.
be in
I would
more
agree with that.
games.
I think it's good to have it behind us. I think it's time for us to move on. I think Lightning needs a rest.
Just
It's
Yep.
kind of like the Batman needs a rest thing. Like we've seen enough Batman movies, enough Batman stuff going on lately. It's okay. We can.
You're just trying to hawk the fact that you don't like Ben Affleck as Batman.
Batman.
I like Ben
Rest.
Affleck. I
I
just
do
don't.
too.
I'm just kind of done with Batman for a while. Like I got three
That's
amazing Batman movies.
you
I'm
know what.
good.
That's what you said after you finished Dark Souls 1, and yet here we are excited for Dark Souls 2.
Well, it's been a couple of years. I've had some time to chill a little
Okay,
bit.
fair
Like
enough.
I'm ready to go. You know what other game I needed some time to chill about, and now
Here we go.
we're kind of playing it right
Okay.
now,
No, we're
Steven,
doing
No,
exactly
what
what
game?
the readers
Are you
or
still
the
playing?
listeners say we do.
which is
They're like, you guys always talk about Dark Souls and Diablo. Well, here we freaking go.
well,
Yeah, but there's a reason to talk about Dark Souls and Diablo right now. Dark Souls is getting a sequel in like a week,
I don't want your
and
logic.
Diablo 3 is getting an expansion, and it got a very major patch.
I don't want your
a
legitimate
huge
reasons.
patch.
To say, hey, we've done a really great job of not bringing it up too much.
Yeah, 400 babies worth of patch. Like seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for those of you who stopped following Diablo because you hate it because they broke the loot system and Blizzard hates you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The pre-expansion pack patch came out. Like now the launcher looks like Reaper of Souls, the expansion, and this patch is sort of aimed at getting the core game in line with what you're going to need for the expansion. The key things it includes is that Loot 2.0 system that they've been really hyping up, a ton of skill changes, and lots of other it adds clan support, community support, bunch of other little stuff. It revamps the difficulty system completely so that the old difficulty levels no longer exist. And being the jaded skeptic I am, I really, really liked Diablo 3. I really, really liked Diablo 3. But it was like my anticipation for it was like this crazy high, and I was up the roller coaster, and then it just dropped straight because I was like, I had 80 hours in the game. I didn't see the lack of variety in loot and character building had kind of killed me, and I was really skeptical. You can ask Rob. He texted me the other night at like midnight, and he's like, "Hey, Diablo patch is out. It's awesome. Try it." And I'm like, I don't feel like they can fix the loot in that game. I changed my mind because they have clearly shown that they understand what was wrong with the original loot system, and it's exciting to play it again because now I'm excited to pick stuff up because of the way they've reduced the number of crap drops you find, and they've sort of tailored it closer to, like when you're out running around, you find stuff that's more tailored for your class. Although you still do find stuff for other classes, which was a problem I was going to have. Which is, I like finding stuff for my other classes when I'm on one character. And just within an hour, I had found stuff that was better than everything I was holding and more interesting. Because my big problem with it before was the whole, all that mattered was just raise your numbers, raise your numbers. The core gameplay did not change. It was just a matter of, I need bigger numbers so I can do bigger damage. Now they've added the system where you can keep leveling and level up your different statistics, and rather than just strength, mana, that sort of stuff, it's like interesting stuff like how much area of effect damage you do, or what are some of the other ones? Like,
so what you're telling me is that all you can increase is not strength?
Not. Yes. Sorry.
Sorry, I cut you off guard.
It
All
really
you can
is.
increase the strength?
Well, like you can raise like your attack speed, you can raise your cooldown reduction. So now
it's
you have.
it's the badass points from Borderlands.
It is. It's exactly
that's
like
what it
that.
is.
However, the impact of them is much more noticeable than they were in Borderlands, I think.
I would agree with that.
Not because they weren't noticeable, because in Borderlands it was just meant to sort of be a bonus thing. Whereas here, now you actually have the ability to customize your character in a certain direction. Like, say you want to have a guy who casts Frozen Orb, which is now a rune, and it's awesome from Diablo 2. Super duper fast. You can reduce your cooldown reduction so you're casting it crazy fast. You can raise like your movement speed, your maximum power for certain classes. You can raise the amount of area effect damage, how much your resources cost if you leech life when you attack. So they've added interesting statistics. But most importantly, what they've added is they've fixed it so like legendary items are the best, like they're supposed to be. And one of my things I loved about Path of Exile and Diablo 2 was that you could find an item like an axe, Johnny's axe. Every time you hit somebody with Johnny's axe, Johnny is summoned and he farts on somebody. And that kind of crazy randomness that was fun. It wasn't like, a cool axe drop, I'm going to do 50 more damage now. That's how it was in vanilla Diablo 3. With this patch now, I pick up, somebody posted something earlier that was really a really neat concept. Like, on hitting enemy, you have a chance to summon a lightning giant who will run around stomping on people. That kind of crazy stuff. And it allows you to be a little more creative with what you're doing. So I'm, kind of droning on, but if you ever loved Diablo 3 and want a reason to go back to it before the patch, it's already drastically improved. I'm markedly more excited for the expansion pack than I was, because before I was like, more content, I'm not interested in the new class, I'm still going to play it and quit. And now I'm like legitimately very excited to play the expansion pack because of what else it adds.
Yeah, I mean, there's some huge advancements. I was able to fix my absolutely broken Demon Hunter in about 15 minutes to go from, wow, I can't play any of the modes on Inferno because the game is just not fun, to, okay, I have serious survivability. I'm actually picking up some cool weapons now. It's a massive improvement. Now, I think that if you still don't like the fact that in playing Diablo 3, you're basically getting a list of a ton of different skills, and that's really the difference between your character and somebody else's, and you can easily switch your character up. Some people are still going to have a problem with that, but I think what they've done is that they've made things much more viable. They've made more skills better. I think their plan of attack was to make every skill awesome now, instead of just like, well, this is the build that you have to use.
Yeah, or like, this is the best skill that does the most damage, so use it. Now it's like, I'm using skills that I never, ever would have used before. And I'm excited to try different ones because they're so interesting now. And I've just been bouncing between a couple before I start specializing my stats, because I'm just actually having fun with crazy different skill combinations now. It's the way it's Diablo. I think the style of Diablo 2 character creation is dated, and this is why Dave will disagree with me that I think Torchlight 2 is not advanced enough and feels like Diablo 2. Diablo 2 is a game about picking one or two skills and maxing them out and killing everything forever with them. Diablo 3, as it was conceived, is a game where you're supposed to have fun playing with the synergy of your different skills. Like, for example, cast Blizzard to slow enemies down, then use a stationary attack, stack it up on them, and then it kills them because they can't move out of it. It didn't work in vanilla Diablo 3. Now it does. So now the game is saying, what combination of skills can you find that you really like?
Yeah. I think it's really a huge advancement. I'm excited for Reaper of Souls again, which I didn't think I was going to be excited for, but here I am. I'm ready to start up a new character. I'm really looking forward to trying the Crusader. Really, really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. I'm happy. I think it's maybe a sign that it took 2 years for this to really come out, for them to fix a lot of things. And
Oh,
I think,
also it guts the auction house, or will
thank
be shortly.
God, thank God, because
Which I know Dave pointed out that he was mad and not going to play it. I think probably because Blizzard spent 2 years saying, no, it's integral to our vision of the game. We can't get rid of it. We can't get rid of it. Okay, we'll get rid of it.
yeah, I think they
Um,
compromise them. It's the SimCity thing. It's the guys saying, "Oh yeah, we can't take the online out of SimCity," and then
oh,
saying,
wait,
"Oh,
we
oh
can.
yeah, yeah, we can." I think they just had a very different game in mind with Diablo 3, and I think they lost something because of that. But they're back on track. Let's see where they end up.
Yeah, I'm a lot more positive on it than I was. Because I was definitely I'll just play Path of Exile. It's better fan. But now I'm legitimately excited to play this more.
As we just hear the clicking in the background with Steven.
No.
Click, 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 click. Derek, you gonna play with us?
Yeah, I
Cool.
haven't touched it in quite a while, but I should probably patch it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes like an
a
hour to
long-
patch because
Yeah,
it has to reconfigure all your files.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of funny. I hadn't played it in a while either. Like I literally, I had like lost my authenticator, so I couldn't play. So I had to go through all these hoops to get back on, like removing my authenticator and finding where if I still have the game installed and stuff. But
Well, that's what you get for losing your authenticator.
right,
I don't know. Yeah, I'll play it.
Yeah.
I've actually been I haven't really looked into anything about Reaper of Souls, but I definitely am interested in trying it. I was in the minority that enjoyed Diablo 3 when it came out, although I do recognize that it had a lot of issues.
I loved
Uh,
it.
yeah, I thought it
yeah,
was
like
fun.
it was a fun game. It wasn't what people were expecting.
Right. Right.
And and the design philosophy with which it was made was not executed on.
Well, I'll tell you this much: it's better than Thief.
I heard Thief is a great game. Tell us about it.
I
Just
mean,
kidding. Don't, because
no, no,
it's
no.
an
I'm not.
RPG
It's not
podcast.
referring.
No, 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 no. I'm not going to do it. But I will say, and Steven and I were talking a little bit the other night when I started playing Thief. We like to make predictions on this show. I think we're going to be hearing a lot about Eidos Montreal very soon. It would not surprise me if they got downsized quite a bit. And I'm honestly concerned about the next Human Revolution game. I am next
Personally,
Deus
I feel
Ex.
like everybody knew that game was going to tank, so they had kind of just said, "All right, finish it, get it out, and we'll move on to our next project." I don't like that philosophy, but I feel like as a corporate thing, that's what happened. I feel like everybody knew that game was coming out and getting panned because they were like, "Just finish it. We've been making it forever. We got nothing."
It could end up selling very well. I mean, it might, but the way I put it, and again, it's not an RPG, but to me, Thief felt like the first game from Eidos Montreal, like their first game, and Deus Ex Human Revolution feels like their second game, if that makes sense. And I think that I don't really need to say anything more than that. I am worried about another Deus Ex game from those guys, but let's hope that Square Enix recognizes that there were maybe some issues with Thief. And I think Human Revolution was a great game. Kyle hated that too. No, I'm sorry.
No, he didn't. Kyle liked Human
I
Revolution.
know, I know. It's just, it was so easy. It was so easy. No, I think Human Revolution was a great game, and I really will be disappointed if we don't get another one because of the train wreck that kind of happened with train wreck's maybe a strong word, but the problems, the challenges that went into making Thief.
Yeah, hard to say, but we'll see.
Not an RPG.
Not an RPG, but we might get an announcement of the next Deus Ex game at E3. I think
I would be shocked if we don't find out what they're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, because they've been hinting that they want to let a Western studio make a Final Fantasy. I still maintain I would love to see Eidos Montreal make some kind of Final Fantasy game.
Really?
Like, I'm not saying I want them to go and make Final Fantasy 16, although I think
No, thank you.
whether or not it's a numbered title is completely arbitrary, and I think that I actually disapprove of your hesitance because I don't think it matters who's making it as long as it adheres to what's good about Final Fantasy.
I think that's the logic that Konami's been using for the past couple of years with their properties. And yeah, we got Silent Hill, Downpour, and Lords
Yeah,
of Shadow.
and Lords of
And
Shadow.
Metal Gear Revengeance, which is amazing.
No, but that was made.
That's fine.
Okay, okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, but
I don't know.
I think that yeah.
I'm very skeptical. I tend not to be a skeptic, but I'm incredibly skeptical of a Final Fantasy made by Eidos.
Well, think like Crystal Chronicles. Think like an action RPG Final Fantasy that they made. I would really like that. They have great art design.
I think everybody would just be in zippers and shades built into their foreheads.
Actually,
That's what
that's
happens.
Tetsuya Nomura.
Yeah, exactly. Like we'll just have
He doesn't work for Eidos.
characters sitting around a crystal going, "I didn't ask for this."
I'd play that.
I'd buy that for $1.
You would. You would.
I'll buy that for $1.
All right, so news.
Sure. I only have a few pieces of news today, but they're all pretty big pieces of news.
New news.
Oh, hey, by the way,
Actually-
listeners, we're going to talk about Danganronpa when we've actually played it.
Yeah, I really want to play
Danganronpa.
that. I really want to play. Oh my God! Make
play it
sure you
too.
don't. Make sure you do not skip the news story about Virtue's Last Reward. Oh my God!
Oh, I don't
Ruined my
know.
whole. Between
we
that
ha-
and Harold Ramis dying, it's been a bad couple of weeks.
I don't think we have a specific news story about.
Just the fact that they don't
but we
have
can talk about
funding.
All right, well, let's just talk about it since you brought it up.
So,
Well,
there's been a lot of interesting development on that front, though. Because they made a big Facebook group like Operation Rainfall, and the developer noticed, and he's been tweeting a lot about how there is movement on it, and like they might be able to get somewhere with it. Part of me, and I hate to say this, feels sort of like it was a publicity stunt to
Yeah.
generate more interest in the game, because he got to make 999, and then he said, "Oh, I didn't know if I'd get to make a sequel." So he put hooks in for another one. Then he made VLR, and it's like VLR has not so much hooks for a sequel, but demands one. And I'm like, but you didn't know that the second game, which was more successful than the first game, you'd get to make a sequel, so you designed it with that in mind? I don't know. I just feel like something doesn't make sense. And I'm not saying that they're like deceiving people, but there's so much more interest in it now. Like people are talking about it.
It's a conspiracy theory podcast. That's what we've turned into.
It is. Although I do think somehow it will come out. Like they said, we've evaluated Kickstarter. We don't think it works for us, which is, let me translate into PR speak, is we didn't really look at it because reasons. But meh.
Yeah,
I hope we get a sequel.
I really do too.
God, we need one. I mean, if you've beaten Virtue's Last Reward, then you know that we need one.
Whoa, don't.
Shh. Yeah,
Hey,
we will
I'm
not
not-
say
I'm not
anything.
gonna
We will not say anything.
Have I ever spoiled anything? I am so freaking mindful. No, I'm not.
Didn't you?
But,
Did we just go over how you spoiled the story for Final Fantasy Versus 13? No, wait. Final Fantasy.
What?
Wait, no. Let me try again. Final Fantasy Lightning. Wait a minute.
I
Lightning
asked him to.
Returns. Final Fantasy 13.
Steven
him
asked
to.
me.
I
What?
said, tell me everything that happens.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I just.
Steven's usually the one that spoils things.
I think it says a lot that I had to sit there and think actively about which Final Fantasy 13 we were talking about.
Well, Versus isn't a thing anymore.
Versus
so
is
forget
not a thing. It is now 15.
Anyway, so speaking of awesome visual novels, so Danganronpa just came out a couple of weeks ago. As Rob said, we're probably going to be talking about it in the coming weeks because I got it. I bought it on launch day. I've only put like an hour into it. I made the mistake of watching the anime before the game came out because I don't know. I guess I was impatient or something, and I kept hearing good things about it. Supposedly, I've done it wrong because everybody says you should watch the anime after because it's kind of just like a
Is it
Clip Notes version of the game.
yeah, I
you
was
get-
wondering if it's the same story.
It is, yeah. It
Okay.
follows the game, and from what I can tell, because like I said, I've only played the game for about an hour, but it seems to follow it really closely. And the anime even has a lot of like little nods where they show the truth bullets that you fire and like screens of the investigation stuff. So
Excuse me? Truth bullets?
yeah, you gotta fire.
Sounds
truth
like the
bullets,
best
man.
game ever. All of a sudden.
Yeah,
Sounds
it's
fascinating.
super cool. It's got a really interesting story, and I thought I was gonna have a hard time getting into it because it's so dark. I wouldn't. I mean, it's violent in the sense that these kids are trapped in a school and they have to kill each other, but like, it doesn't show. it doesn't show them gruesomely murdering each other. It does show what happens afterwards. Like you have to investigate the crime scene basically, and there are these execution sequences that are very surreal and weird. It's bizarre. Anyway, I didn't think it was going to be for me, but I ended up really liking the anime, so I got the game. Game's cool. Well, luckily for us, just after the game came out, Nipponichi Software America announced that the sequel is coming out here later this year. So that's
Yeah, that
both
was
games
quick.
in the same year. I think that's insane. Uh, the second one is it's connected plot wise. It's got a new cast, but not a spoiler. Well, I don't know. I don't know if it is a spoiler. I'm not going to tell you. There are definitely connections between the two casts. So that's all I'll say. But yeah, it's coming out for Vita later this year, which is cool because Danganronpa is awesome. It's basically, I don't know how much you've looked into it, Rob, but it's pretty much like 999 or Virtue's Last Reward plus Battle Royale or the Hunger Games.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's cool.
It looks cool.
It's super out there, but it's cool.
looks
It's very
weird.
unique. It's
It
very
looks-
unique.
I like weird stuff, so I think
We all like weird stuff.
And it's not like tripey, crappy, like I don't know how, how to describe it really. It's not like dumb anime because I'm a person who likes good anime, but there is definitely it's not Hyperdimension Neptunia is what I'm trying to say because I just unabashedly dislike. I would go so far as to say I hate Hyperdimension Neptunia. No offense to people who like it, but God, no. Anyway, moving on from good things to other good to good-ish things. Nipponichi also announced a ton of games at once. They had a press event like they do every year. So after Danganronpa 2, they announced North American localizations for Disgaea 4: A Promise Revisited, which is the PlayStation Vita port of Disgaea 4, because they seem to do that now always, where they have a port of a mainline Disgaea game. Fairy Fencer F, which is actually it's got a similar. I think it uses the same engine as Hyperdimension Neptunia, but I've heard it's not a pile of crap. Um, I'm so objective. And it has the soundtrack that has some work by Uematsu and stuff. And Steven, you said it's a pretty good soundtrack, right? Listen to it.
Steven stepped away.
Steven
Well,
stepped away,
Steven
just didn't
stepped
let us
away.
know.
Oh, well, that's nice.
No,
So
good
Steven
job,
thinks it's a
Steven.
great soundtrack. And so they announced that, as well as Battle Princess of Arcadia, which is a side-scrolling beat-em-up with RPG elements. And the last news story, like I said, I only had a couple, is the biggest. Atlas dropped a Persona bomb on our faces, and we're really
yes,
happy
they
about it.
did.
They announced not one, not two, but 3 different guys. Oh, wait, no, that's a Mori Povich video. They announced 4 Persona games. 4 Persona games all at once.
Wowzer.
We've got Persona Q Shadow of the Labyrinth coming out first. That's going to be fall of 2014. That's
Buying
this
it.
year, ladies and gentlemen. Persona Q is a first-person dungeon crawler in the vein of Etrian Odyssey. But it's got all Persona characters. Yay!
And so Don Kotowski of Square Enix Music Online actually posited a great thing for music people. Sorry, I'm hijacking it again.
Oh, okay.
First of all, that game has the potential for crossover music, like Mass Destruction / Reach Out to the Truth crossover. That would be amazing.
Reach out to the destruction.
Second, Yuzo Koshiro works with that team a lot, so imagine an awesome FM synthesis version of Persona music. Just think
Yeah.
of the possibilities.
I'm down. So the game, yeah, it has characters from it has the full cast from Persona 3 and Persona 4, and you can have a party of 5 people and you dungeon crawl. They haven't shown really anything of the dungeon crawlings, so I don't know if you're gonna draw maps, but I feel like
That'd be cool.
you won't. I feel like they'll be auto-filled in for you. But yeah, so you just don't draw maps. The battles are in first person, and it's got both casts, so you can mix and match characters to make your own Persona Dream Team, which I think is actually pretty damn cool. And then before I get to the big one, they also announced Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, which is the sort of iterative sequel to Persona 4 Arena. If you've ever played a Blaze Blue game or a Guilty Gear game, you'll know that Arc System Works tends to just release like a new version that's got new plot, but for the most part, it's just like tweaked existing characters and then a couple new ones. So that's pretty much what Persona 4 Arena Ultimax is. We don't cover it at RPG Fan, but I mean, like, if you're a Persona fan, you'll want it because Persona 4 Arena is awesome. It
Yes.
continues the story from Persona 4 Arena, and it's got a new character named Sho Minazuki, and he's got red hair and 2 little katanas, and he's important to the plot of the game of Persona 4 Arena, and I'm actually curious to see if he has any tie into Persona 5, because he does have red hair, and the theme for Persona 5 has been red hair. Um,
I'm sure he's one of the characters.
Hopefully. So, and then also Persona 4 Dancing All Night was announced for US. That's the PlayStation Vita rhythm game.
So buying that.
I'm so buying that too, because I love rhythm games. I love Bust a Move. I actually think that the Hatsune Miku games are pretty fun, even though I'm not like a fan of the music in them. They're fun to play. So yeah, it's a rhythm game. You definitely have to fight shadows by dancing. That's fine. Persona 4 or Persona music in general is fantastic. So sure, it's going to be fun. And then the final big piece of news that we're all super stoked about. We didn't get any additional information on the plot, but Atlas did confirm that Persona 5 is coming to North America in early 2015. So
Yay!
that's going to be awesome. I'm
I am
really
actually-
excited.
It sounds awesome. Like from that interview that was going
Yeah.
around.
Yeah,
You know what I like that Atlas does, and they did this with Shin Megami Tensei 4, is they don't show much of their games before they release it. Like, nobody's going into Persona 4 like knowing the entire cast of characters and everything that everyone does and all of the major side quests. Dark Brotherhood. Sorry, I'm making fun of Skyrim, but
No, that's what they did. But they actually, that's a good point, because they did that with Lightning Returns. They put out promo video after promo video after promo video, and by the time I actually played the game, I was like, I feel like I've seen all of this, and it's my fault for being the one who kept consuming it, kept watching the trailers and kept clicking the links. But like, I appreciate their restraint, and I want to, like, I guess I want to know who the main cast is before the game comes out. Like, I just want to see some art and stuff, but I don't want to know like in-depth stuff. I want to experience it in the game.
I think back to how much fun I had in Golden knowing literally nothing about Persona 4 and like experiencing it, being like, I don't know who I'm going to get in my party. I don't know who all the characters are. I'm actually probably going to black out on Persona 5 and just play it and not know anything.
I want to say that I wish I could do that, but I can't, because Persona feeds my very soul. So I'm going to have to.
I wouldn't
I
mind
like getting a small glimpse and
Yeah.
then shutting down, like nothing else.
Yeah, I'd like to see the characters, and that's about it. I can deal with that. Just knowing a couple of characters and knowing, that basic outline. Yeah.
Basic gameplay stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's really exciting, and that is the piece of news I have for the day.
Yep. I am excited.
Lots of good stuff coming.
This is going to be an awesome
This year is crazy
We
already.
haven't
like-
even hit E3 yet.
No, like I don't. I mean, it's February. Well, it won't be by the time you hear this podcast. It's February 27th, and I've gotten like, I got Tales of Symphonia Chronicles. I just beat Strider. I got Danganronpa. I'm playing Wolf Among Us, and then there's like, the next month is insane. I think I've done this on almost every podcast. I'm not going to list all the stuff that's coming out again, but and now I can get Ground Zeroes. Now that they're gonna. Did you guys hear that they're dropping Ground Zeroes to $30?
Yeah, they lowered the price of it on next gen. That's awesome.
That's reasonable. Like, I still think 30 is a little bit high, but I really want to play a game on my PS4, so I'll do it. I'll buy into that. I'll be a sucker.
Well, I also kind of think of it this way. They've said it'll be 8 or 9 if you do all the side stuff. You know what? $30 for an 8 or 9 hour game is, by today's standards, pretty good.
Yeah.
Zone of the Enders was a 2-hour game that was $50.
Yeah, but I was pissed about that. I mean, I like the game.
I was too. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was mad about it, but
Anyway, this year's already really amazing, and on the next podcast, I'm sure I'll be able to talk about it. I am playing Atelier, or in this time in the game they call it Atelier. Like, get it straight. Pick one. Be consistent.
somebody
French
hired
or
a
be-
different
or be
localization
English.
director.
Yeah, but they actually call it Atelier, but it's Atelier, and then their names are pronounced weirdly. It's actually Eska and Logi. I thought it was going to be Esha and Logi, but they pronounce it, so it's Atelier, Eska and Logi. I'm playing that right now. I just got it for review. I got it a bit early, which is awesome, and it's not really embargoed, so I can talk about it to some extent, but I will have much more to say next time. It's really good. So if you like Atelier or Atelier games, you will like it for sure.
Cool.
Anyway, this year's awesome, so that's all I'm saying.
I would say this year is awesome.
We got.
I'd say you're awesome.
I should have been. I next time we record, I will probably have played South Park.
Mm.
Rob will probably
Actually,
have played Dark Souls
I want to
2.
hear about that. I really hope that. Yes, see, all three of us. Sorry, Kyle. All three of us get to play games that we really care about right now, and the next time we'll be super enthused.
Yeah, this is going to be an intense couple of weeks now.
Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Rob will be getting Dark Souls and reviewing it. Dark
Oh,
Souls
boy.
2.
Oh boy.
We wish him luck, and may
I'm
God have
ready to
mercy
go.
on his soul.
I'm ready to go. Yeah, exactly. God have mercy on my soul. I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be okay. Or not. It'll finally break me.
It's okay. I'm just waiting for you to come back and complain about how you didn't want to rush through it, so Steven can just absolutely rip you apart.
I think part of the reason why is because I don't think we're gonna get a PC release until May, and yeah, I don't think I can wait.
Not touch until it comes out on PC. I don't want to wait. It's going to be difficult, but you know what? I can wait.
Do your best. Come on.
I can't wait.
Yep.
Well,
All
I mean,
right.
I say all that, but you know, who knows what might happen.
You're in a cave.
Indeed.
I'm not saying I'm not going to cave.
Give in to your.
Anyway, so it's been real.
Yeah. I think we had a good show, guys. Thanks everybody for listening to the podcast. As always, make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or through the RSS feed. Again, Derek was pointing out all of the great games that are coming up, so make sure to stay tuned, and we will see you all next time.